There were exactly 37 people on my front lawn, each holding a paper plate and plastic fork, standing with the awkward confidence of people who believed they were expected. One man dressed like he was about to officiate. The summer wedding was already spooning coleslaw into a personal Tupperware container. A toddler licked barbecue sauce from his fingers that had nabos. The tea even been served yet. And just as I began to process the absurdity, gathering, an elderly woman waved at me like she was checking into a hotel she'd booked a month ago. I was still wearing my slippers. And there she was, front and center like Demena Parade leader. Karen, her oversized sunglasses gleamed like polished lies, perched just beneath the brim of straw sun hat you only wear when you think you're in charge of something. The fake pearl necklace sat on her like joke without punchline, and in her hand, of course, was her sacred Hulk clipboard, clutched with the reverence of someone who thought they were organizing presidential dinner. I hadn't invited single one of them. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, to say anything, someone yelled from the back, "Barbecue time, baby." The whole crowd cheered. I watched as people began setting up folding chairs, claiming spots on my lawn like settlers planting flags. One guy even rolled out picnic blanket, humming to himself as if he were at a jazz festival. In that moment, I realized the neighborhood had made one big mistake by showing up hungry. No, their mistake was believing Karen when she said I'd cook for them. Their mistake was thinking they could eat my piece of mind served medium rare with a side of entitlement. And Karen's mistake, that one was fatal. She thought she could hijack my generosity and sell it like it was her own. But what she didn't know was that the real heat wasn't coming from my grill. It was about to come from me. 2 days earlier, I had planned simple backyard cookout for me and 5 friends, not some overblown community shindig. Just ribs, smoked wings, and a couple of burgers, few cold drinks, maybe some chips. Nothing Instagrammable, nothing fancy. Just the kind of small, imperfect get-together that helps you breathe again after a week that tried to crush you. I even cleaned the grill, and I hate cleaning the grill. I strung up my old fairy lights, rearranged the benches so everyone could talk without shouting, and marinated the wings like they were the only thing I could still control. That Saturday was supposed to be my reset button, my way to decompress without needing therapist or plane ticket. I love to cook. Not for show, not for strangers, but because food is the only time my brain shuts off. Cooking is meditation with flavor. That's why when Karen walked into my backyard, uninvited, unannounced, unapologetic, I should have known peace was on borrowed time. She didn't knock. She didn't even call out. She just let herself in through the side gate like it was her God-given right, like my fence was welcome mat and not boundary. The sharp click of her high heels on my patio sounded like warning shots. I turned around, still holding a bottle of cayenne pepper, and gave her the kind of smile that says, "I'm not mad yet, but I could be." She didn't smile back. Instead, she looked around with narrowed eyes, scanning my setup like she was appraising it for resale value. Then she nodded to herself like she'd just discovered gold in someone else's backyard. "This is perfect," she murmured, tapping on her phone. "Sorry, what's perfect?" I asked, cautious but still civil. "This," she said, gesturing at everything. "The benches, the lights, the neatly stacked condiments. You're doing the whole summer welcome Buffett right." I blinked. What Buffett or smile was the kind that made you feel like you were 5 seconds away from being volunteered for something you never signed up for. "I sent out the announcement this morning," she chirped. "We're calling it a barbecue and brews and a BBS. The whole community's excited. I actually promised pulled pork, but if you can't do that, just make extra wings." That was when I truly understood what dread tasted like. It tasted like cayenne and confusion and the slow boiling rage of someone watching their quiet afternoon be turned into a block party press release. Well, I never agreed to host anything, but I said, each word dropping like brick. Karen's smile wavered just for a second. Then it snapped back into place with the precision of someone who's lied so often they forget when they started believing their own stories. "Don't be like that, Jave," she said, folding her arms. "You're always grilling anyway, and people love your food. This is a great way to give back." Immunity spirit and all that, my brain short-circuited. I had planned small gathering, 5 close friends, no flyers. Oh, repeat, a whole interference. "You don't need to be so selfish," Karen added. "You always cook alone. Let people enjoy it with you. Besides, the flyers are already out, and I may have mentioned you were covering all food and drinks." I dropped the seasoning bottle. It hit the patio with sound that felt like gavel slamming. "You what?" I said. She shrugged. "Look, it's already gone viral in the whole group chat. Just don't be party pooper, okay?" And with that, she turned and walked away, her heels clicking like war drums on retreat, leaving me in a cloud of stunned silence. I stood there for a full minute, unable to move, unable to speak. Then my phone buzzed and buzzed again. 25 messages in 2 minutes from people I barely knew. "What time should we come? Should I bring side dish? Is it cool if we bring our dog?" One message just said, "I'll bring wine." But I don't share. By evening, my phone was a graveyard of unsolicited REP screenshots. My grill, forgotten, my mood ruined. My 5 close friends were now sending me memes of lawn parties that looked like Woodstock with potato salad. One of them sent me a photo of the flyer Karen had taped outside the community pool. My name was in bold font. Free barbecue. Unlimited wings hosted by Jay. The background was stock photo of someone else's backyard. Not even mine. The audacity wasn't even masked. It was laminated. I wasn't just being taken advantage of. I was being advertised, marketed, packaged, and sold without consent, and somehow expected to deliver. The next morning, it got worse. A neighbor I barely recognized knocked on my door with a box of paper napkins. I can't wait for the buffet, ma'am, she said with wink. Karen says you're making your famous sweet chili wings. I've been dying to try them. She handed me the box like she was passing off wedding gift. Then she left, and that's when the spark hit me, not metaphorically. Literal spark. Fire right between my eyes and my spice cabinet. That's when it became clear. I wasn't going to cancel. I wasn't going to beg, apologize, or explain. I was going to cook, but I wasn't going to serve food. I was going to serve truth, flavored with vengeance and dipped in ghost pepper sauce, because this wasn't just about wings anymore. This was about boundaries. This was about reclaiming the plate Karen tried to steal, and by the time it was over, everyone would remember exactly who they were messing with. Especially her. The moment the door shut behind that neighbor with the napkin box, I knew I had crossed an internal threshold. There was no going back to normal, no rewinding the weekend, no texting everyone to say it was all a misunderstanding. Karen had already rewritten the script, handed out copies, and assigned me the lead role without my permission. But if I was going to play the part, I'd rewrite the ending myself. I walked straight to the kitchen, bypassing the drip coffee and reaching instead for the shelf where I kept ingredients that didn't belong in polite recipes. Ghost peppers, Carolina Reapers, and small bottle labeled with hand-drawn skull that simply read, Raj Revenge. My old college buddy Raj ran an artisan pepper farm upstate. He owed me favor from the time I helped him move out of his apartment in the rain. I didn't even need to explain when I called him. He picked up on the second ring, heard the tightness in my voice, and said, let me guess, suburban diplomacy exploded again? I told him everything while pacing the kitchen. He laughed so hard I could hear him wheezing between words, then promised to overnight his hottest batch along with 2 bottles of Lucifer's Tears sauce so infamous it came with its own burn waiver. I thanked him and promised he'd be the first to see the footage. Yes, there would be footage. That night I retrieved my old GoPro gear from the garage, dusty but intact. I charged the batteries, tested the lenses, and plotted the camera placements like a general surveying a battlefield, one on the porch aimed at the serving station, one by the grill to capture the chef's perspective, third in the birdhouse for wide shot, fourth across the street, camouflaged in hedge planter. I wanted everything, every bite, every reaction, every attempt at hiding the agony behind polite smiles. Karen wanted show. She was going to get one, edited in fork with surround sound. I even found an old security sticker in the drawer and stuck it to the birdhouse. Smile, you're on BBUCam. I didn't sleep that night. I prepped instead. If I was going to weaponize flavor, I had to do it with precision. I marinated the wings in concoction that could legally be considered chemical reaction. I used gloves, goggles, and opened every window, but it still wasn't enough. The fumes made my dog Max flee to the laundry room. My kitchen smelled like furnace in hell's waiting room. I didn't stop. I couldn't. It wasn't anger driving me anymore. It was clarity, cold, methodical, spicy clarity. I labeled 3 trays. Inferno batch of mild for the faint-hearted, and 1 marked impermanent marker, a private invited guests only to be stored under cooler lid in the garage fridge. Only 5 people would eat safely. Everyone else would dance with the devil. And Theopos. Did do it willingly. I designed fake menu cards with descriptions that sounded sweet but vague. A bold flavor, unexpected twist, culinary adventure, the fine print. Consume at own risk. Not for children or people with fragile egos. I made waiver slips, half for legal coverage, half for the symbolism. Each one read, by consuming any food from this event, I acknowledge that I was not invited by the host and accept full responsibility for my spice tolerance, digestive integrity, and public dignity. I placed them in decorative wooden tray next to the serving station. Karen wanted to play queen of the neighborhood. Fine, she could be the queen of consequences. The morning of the event, the sun rose bright and unrepentant as if it knew what was coming and wanted to witness every glorious second. I was up before the birds wearing a fresh apron that said a chief of pain delivery in bold red lettering. The smoke from the grill rose like prelude, curling into the sky with an arrogance that matched my mood. I wasn't cooking anymore. I was sculpting revenge. Every wing I flipped sizzled with intent. Every spice I brushed on whispered, "You shouldn't have crossed the boundary." By 8 a.m., the first curious head peeked over the fence. Not one of my 5 friends, couple I didn't recognize, holding folding chairs and beaming like they were early for music festival. "Karen said you might need help setting up," the woman chirped. I stared at her, then at the plastic chairs peeking out from their trunk. I smiled the way you smile at raccoons who just found your trash can. "Of course," I said. "Just drop 'em by the fire pit." Her husband gave me thumbs up and said, "Hope you made a lot of wings." His optimism would be short-lived. In the next hour, my yard transformed. Uninvited guests arrived in waves like flash mob in cargo shorts and flip-flops. Some brought side dishes unasked for. One kid brought bubble machine. Teenager started setting up Bluetooth speaker. My quiet backyard, once sanctuary of sauce and serenity, now resembled the aftermath of county fair. And then she arrived, Karen. She came in like she was hosting Coachella, clipboard in one hand, headset over her ears, barking directions as if she had a production team. She waved at people, pointed at tables, and asked me to move the garden hose in case someone needed to rinse their hands. I said nothing, just smiled. The scent of ghost pepper glaze was thick in the air now. It wouldn't be long. The trays were ready, one batch glowing, menacing shade of red, the others deceptively mild in appearance, but clearly labeled. The waivers sat nearby, untouched. I watched the crowd buzz around them, barely giving them a glance. No one reads the fine print anymore, especially not Karen. She strutted over to the serving table, reached for the brightest wings she could find, and grabbed 3. "Oh, please," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I eat Thai food twice a week. This'll be nothing." She took bite. And then it happened. Silence that punched the air out of the moment. Karen's face didn't contort at first. It froze. Her eyes widened, her chewing slowed, and a sound escaped her lips like a wheeze mixed with a regretful gasp. She blinked once, twice, and began fanning herself with her clipboard. Sweat broke along her hairline. Her lips trembled. Her headset slipped. She tried to laugh, but it came out as cough. People around her started grabbing wings too, oblivious, encouraged by her initial confidence. Within minutes, it was chain reaction of culinary destruction. Man sprayed soda into his own face. Woman doubled over, clutching her stomach. A kid screamed, "Why is the chicken yelling back?" and threw his plate into bush. Someone started running in circles around the picnic table like spice was predator he could outrun. Karen grabbed soda, chugged it, and winced when the carbonation lit her mouth up. Even more, she pointed at me with trembling hands. What did you put in?" "Ghost peppers," I said. "Didn't you read the sign?" I gestured at the waiver pile. She stared at it, blinking through tears. Someone yelled, "We need milk." Neighbors sprinted to their car and returned with half-empty jug of almond milk, sparking mini stampede. I offered wet wipes with the serenity of monk. My gut rose, captured every second. Karen stumbled toward me again, eyes wild, mascara streaked like war paint. "You did this on purpose." I tilted my head. "Did what?" "Cook food, host the buffet you promoted without asking." I warned everyone there were signs, waivers, options, but nobody reads anymore. I handed her waiver slip. She took it, stared at it, then tore it in half. "You think this is funny?" I looked around at the chaos. Sweating guests, overturned chairs, man crying into slice of watermelon, and smiled honestly little. Just then my friend Tyler arrived, one of the original 5. He stepped into the madness, surveyed the scene, and said, "What in the spicy hell did I miss?" I handed him plate from the cooler batch. The mild, safe, actually edible wings. He bit into one and grinned. "These are amazing. What happened to everyone else?" I pointed to the tray marked Inferno. "Karen's buffet," I said. "I just brought the flavor." He laughed so hard he nearly dropped the wing. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." I nodded. "That's the plan." By the time the crowd thinned and the smoke cleared, my yard looked like the set of failed cooking show crossed with disaster response training video. People left red-faced and hiccuping. Karen stormed out last, one heel stuck in the grass, muttering threats. I waved at her, retreating back, then turned to the nearest GoPro and whispered, "Episode 1. Karen's Spicy Nightmare, coming soon." And it would. Oh, it absolutely would. By the time the last plastic fork clattered to the ground and the sound of retching subsided near my flower beds, I was standing behind the grill like a general surveying the aftermath of battle. The smoke curled around me like an old friend, thick with spices and vengeance. The Inferno batch had done its work. There were no fireworks, no speeches, no grand reveal. Just people sniffling, sweating, and looking around for someone to blame wasn't themselves. I handed out bottled water like a medic in a war zone, nodding solemnly, masking the satisfaction blooming quietly in my chest. This hadn't been an ambush. It was masterclass in boundaries, labeled clearly, served freely, and ignored entirely. Still, I knew this was just the beginning. Chaos, after all, never fades quietly, it festers. And Karen, the self-appointed monarch of miscalculated authority, had too much pride to leave things smoldering. Stormed off, heels sinking into the lawn, makeup melting, lips twisted in rage. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Agapros had captured everything. The signs, the waivers, the warnings, the moments when laughter turned to tears and pride to panic. I had evidence, not just for the neighborhood, not just for Karen, but for the internet. That night I sat in my kitchen, still reeking of spice and smoke. Max curled beneath the table like a dog Wopos. Did you witness something mythological? I uploaded the footage, no commentary. No flashy music, just a simple title, The Ghost Wing Incident. I scheduled it for 7 a.m. the next morning and closed my laptop. Sleep came slowly, but it came. Peaceful, grounded, dreamless. By 9 a.m., the views had crossed 50. By noon, it passed 4,000. By dinner, 25,000. The comments came fast and vicious. This is culinary justice. Karen got what she deserved. Someone give this man a Netflix series. Some called me hero. Others hazarded. Hot sauce company in Arizona emailed me offering sponsorship. Content curator messaged me ask collaboration on Neighborhood War docu-series. And through it all, I sipped lemonade and watched it unfold like I was seated in the front row of a show I hadn't bought tickets for. But somehow had starred in. The neighborhood, however, wasn't as entertained. The division lines sharpened overnight. Some residents thought it was hilarious and well-earned. Others grumbled about how unneighborly it all was. I got side eyes at the mailbox. One lady from 3 doors down asked if I had Vengeance subscription service and whether she could sign up to get back at her ex-husband. But the real escalation came with no. Sharp, rehearsed no. I opened the door to a man in a beige blazer holding an envelope like it was a weaponized wedding invitation. Poesio, golden trim, heavy paper, dramatic. Inside was a notice. Emergency disciplinary hearing scheduled Friday evening, library annex regarding my culinary retaliation and a failure to maintain peaceful neighborhood dynamic. That last part made me laugh out loud. The letter read like court summons penned by creative work. The major with grudge. And the name at the bottom, Karen, of course. She had filed an official complaint, accusing me of malicious intent, of public endangerment, and most theatrically, a chemical food assault. I didn't reply. I printed still frames from my video instead. One of the waiver basket, one of the tray labels, one of Karen herself biting into the wing beneath the clear signage. Then I printed out the flyer she had made with my name on it, proudly promising unlimited wings. I stacked the photos in folder. Friday came faster than expected. The hearing was held in the community center annex behind the pool room that usually hosted bingo and Zumba classes. Now it felt like courtroom draped in forced neutrality. Karen sat at one end of the table, flanked by a man I assumed was her cousin playing lawyer. He had the posture of someone who had Googled how to win an argument that morning. Her arms were crossed, her chin tilted with practiced condescension. I gave her a polite nod and sat down across from her, my folder unopened. The Hoa president, Mr. Arnold, was already sweating. He read through the agenda like a man desperate to be anywhere else. Karen spoke first, her voice syrupy but firm. She described the spice-induced chaos, children crying, adults gasping, someone allegedly fainting behind my hydrangeas. She painted a scene of deliberate sadism. Backyard turned into war zone, all orchestrated by man who, in her words, weaponized poultry. Her pretend lawyer threw around phrases like negligent recklessness, immunity betrayal. For a moment, I almost admired the performance. Then it was my turn. I said nothing theatrical. No monologue, no accusations. I simply opened my folder and passed the photos across the table. I pointed at the waiver slips, the tray labels, the footage time-stamped with Karen organizing guests, giving orders, boasting about spice tolerance. I spoke plainly. I hosted private gathering. Karen promoted it without consent. I adapted. One of the board members squinted at the flyer and asked Karen if she had gotten my approval. She smiled nervously and said, well, I assumed she'd be fine with it. I turned to the board. Assumption, I said. Not permission. That word landed, heavy, satisfying. Mr. Arnold rubbed his temples and exhaled like he was deflating. After a few moments of murmured consultation, the board ruled that no violation had occurred. My event had included clear signage precautions and options. They even proposed reviewing how events were approved in the future to prevent rogue initiatives. Karen's expression cracked, lips pressed so tightly together they nearly vanished. Her cousin lawyer knocked over his briefcase trying to stand up. She left in silence. But I knew she wouldn't stop there. Later invitations appeared on every doorstep and apology brunch hosted by Karen. No mention of the wings incident, just a celebration of community and moving forward. I wasn't planning to go, but then Tyler sent me screenshot from private Ho thread. Karen had told few select members that she planned to debut. Corrected version of the barbecue footage, her version, edited to cast herself as the victim and me as saboteur. I stared at the message. Then I got to work. I arrived early. I brought my laptop, portable speaker, and my original footage, unedited, raw, every GoPro angle. I asked the event manager for a few minutes during open floor time. He agreed. Karen hadn't arrived yet. People mingled with mimosas and mini quiches. I queued up the video, and just before she walked in, I hit play. The room filled with familiar sounds, Karen's voice giving orders, my signs clearly labeled, the first bites, the gasps, the wavers fluttering, her saying, I eat Thai food twice week. The reverse sneeze, the hose, the almond milk, the panic, laughter broke out instantly. People doubled over. Karen froze at the door, brunch tray trembling. Her eyes darted from face to face. One guy started clapping, then another, then everyone. Karen didn't speak. She dropped the tray and walked out. I didn't stop the video. I let it play again. By the second loop, even her most loyal supporters were laughing. That night, someone slid note under my door. No signature, just 4 words. She won't be back. And they were right. The whole thread went quiet. Karen disappeared from the group chat. The lawn patrol stopped. Flyer ceased. No more comments about trash lids or improperly aligned flower pots. I was asked by the Hoa to host the next community cook. Accepted with one condition. I picked the menu, they agreed, and somewhere behind curtain Karen probably watched the views climb past 100,000, watched the comments, the memes, the dramatizations. Her face, frozen mid-bite, had become digital legend, but this wasn't revenge anymore. It was reclamation. It was peace, and peace, as it turned out, tasted like sweet chili and vindication. The morning after the brunch screening, I woke up to find a package sitting neatly on my front porch. No name, no return address. Just plastic trophy inside box cushion with orange tissue paper and sticky note taped to the base that read, 2025 cul-de-sac Iron Chef of Spite. Keep cooking. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee, and Max stared at me with one ear raised, like even he couldn't oppose. T believed this was my life now. The neighborhood had spoken, not with picket signs or angry Ho letters, but with sarcasm and glitter-covered plastic. The video had gone viral beyond our little cul-de-sac. TikTok edits popped up overnight. One guy reenacted Karen's Ghost Pepper breakdown with full gospel choir in the background. Another edited her slow meltdown to operatic music and labeled it, like Karen, Queen of Regret. My inbox flooded with messages from food bloggers, prank video compilations, and hot sauce brand that offered to name their next blend. Neighborhood napalm in my honor, but not everyone was thrilled. Few neighbors continued their quiet protests, refusing a contact at the mailbox, walking their dogs in loops to avoid my driveway. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to win popularity contest. I just wanted my lawn back. What surprised me most was Karen's silence. She didn't post, didn't call, didn't initiate another fake community project. It was like she'd gone underground, resurfacing only as the punchline of everyone else's joke. I should have felt victorious, and in a way I did, but part of me also felt the way you feel after watching building collapse. You're satisfied, but you can't quite shake the dust off your shoes. Then came the email from Mr. Arnold, the Hope president. Subject line, next steps. I clicked it expecting more drama, maybe even quiet suspension of my barbecue privileges. Instead it read, Jake, despite everything, the board agrees that this year's community celebration needs new energy. We'd like you to be our guest of honor and lead the cook-off. No tricks, just flavor. Let us know. I reread the message 3 times to be sure it wasn't prank. These were the same people who'd threatened disciplinary action week earlier. Now they wanted me to headline their annual potluck. I replied with a single condition. I cook what I want, how I want, with the message I want. They responded within the hour. We trust your judgment. That part almost made me choke on my lemonade. I started planning that same night, but this time there were no hidden trays, no capsaicin warfare, no concealed cameras. This wouldn't be about revenge. It would be about legacy. The strange, spicy legacy of what started as Stolen Saturday and turned into Suburban Saga. I called Raj again, not for more ghost peppers, but to thank him and to ask for a new blend, one with balanced heat and slow build, something that whispered instead of screamed. He sent me 3 jars with handwritten labels. Redemption, Civic Spice, and a Karen's Last Chance. I ended up using mix of all 3. The day of the cook-off arrived with the kind of weather that makes people believe in forgiveness. Warm, breezy, forgiving. The park was alive by 10. There were booths with handmade crafts, face painting station, and bounce house that leaned suspiciously left but stayed inflated. At the center stood my cooking tent. A simple wooden sign read, "Community Feast." No surprises, just spice. Beneath it, the scent of grilled meat, garlic, and slow-roasted peppers floated into the crowd like an invitation. I kept everything transparent. Labels, samples, even mild-only tray with sign that read, "Karen Safe." People trickled in cautiously at first, but soon they lined up, laughing, nudging one another. Some brought their own sauce bottles like groupies at rock concert. Few of the ghost pepper victims returned, holding plates and ESD in equal measure. One woman joked, "Was this the redemption arc?" I smiled, more like the epilogue. As I handed out wings and ribs, I noticed something unexpected at the edge of the crowd. Karen, no clipboard, no sunglasses, no hat. She wore a plain blouse and jeans, her hair tied back, her posture uncharacteristically small. She didn't wave. Neither did I, but she got in line, waited like everyone else. When she reached the front, she didn't speak immediately. Then quietly she said, "One plate, please." I handed it to her without word. She nodded, turned, and found an empty seat near the edge of the lawn, alone. Eating in silence, no drama. No declarations, just a plate and the person who had once tried to hijack an entire community moment now quietly participating in one. A few hours later, the board presented me with a plaque. It was wooden, modest, and somehow more meaningful than the plastic trophy. It read, "Community Builder Award for Resilience, Humor, and Unmatched Grilling." People clapped. Someone shouted, "Put warning signs on his driveway." I gave short speech, nothing rehearsed. I just thanked them, reminded everyone about respecting boundaries, and added spicy food should always come with heads up. Laughter followed, the kind of laughter that doesn't hurt anyone. As the sun dipped low and parents packed up juice boxes and folding chairs, I stayed back to clean up. Max trotted around sniffing the grass like he was checking for leftover trauma. I wiped the grill, stacked trays, and looked up to see Karen walking toward me. Slowly, her eyes scanned the ground like she was looking for words that had slipped from her mouth and disappeared into the grass. She stopped in front of the table, glanced at the plaque, then at me. "You didn't have to be that nice," she said. Her voice wasn't smug, just tired. "I could have made this worse for you." I nodded. "You did. But it's over now." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else, maybe apologize, or maybe just explain the unexplainable. But nothing came. She gave a small nod and walked away. This time she didn't storm. She simply left. At night, I sat on my porch with Max curled at my feet, the trophy on one side, the plaque on the other, and a glass of lemonade in my hand. I watched the street settle into stillness, the kind of quiet that feels earned. No shouting, no flyers, just the of crickets and the memory of a community that had, against all odds, grown closer through chaos. I uploaded one final video, no spice, no drama. Just a thank you montage set to mellow jazz. Kids with painted faces, couples laughing with wings in hand, time lapse of the park filling and emptying like living, breathing thing. At the end, I included single still frame. Karen sitting at the cook-off alone, plate in hand, looking like someone finally learning to listen. Before bed, I updated the subtitle of my food blog. It used to say, "Recipes for One." I changed it to "Recipes for Everyone." And beneath that, in parentheses, I added, "Unless Karen's organizing it." Max barked once like he approved. I shut the laptop and smiled. The war was over. The fire had cooled, but the flavor, that would last forever. 2 days after the cook-off, I woke up to find note taped to my front door. It was written in blue ink, no envelope, folded once like something someone had nearly changed their mind about sending. The handwriting wasn't the sharp, controlled scrawl of someone trying to prove point. It was hesitant, almost shy. 4 words, nothing more. "Odd everything. You were right." Below it, just named Karen. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the paper like it might explode. Max sniffed it cautiously, perhaps half expecting it to be another HO directive or a coded recipe for sabotage. But there was no threat hidden in the folds, no accusation tucked beneath the apology, just thinking maybe for the first time. Honesty, I didn't feel triumphant reading it. I didn't feel smug. I felt strangely quiet, like someone had finally stopped shouting inside room I didn't realize I'd been trapped in. I folded the note and tucked it into drawer without ceremony. I didn't need to frame it or post it or send it to the whole board. I didn't need proof of what I already knew. The war had ended and someone else had finally surrendered. In the days that followed, the neighborhood changed, not dramatically. There were still trash bins placed an inch too far left, and someone's dog still barked like it was auditioning for security system commercial. But the energy shifted. Karen's silence became strange kind of background music. No clipboard parades, no complaints about Dandelions, no unsolicited flyers on doors. Her absence felt like that moment in the song when the beat drops out and you realize how loud it had been the whole time. I walked past her house once and noticed the blinds were down, the front yard unusually plain. The ceramic frog statue she used to place near her hydrangeas was gone. A few neighbors speculated she had gone to stay with family. Others assumed she was quietly regrouping. But I wasn't interested in her next move. I was focused on mine. My blog had exploded. The Ghost Wing incident passed 100,000 views, and not just from bored suburbanites. A popular hot sauce company from Austin shipped me a crate labeled "Caution. Flavor may outlive regret," with handwritten note that read, "Thanks for putting our fire to good use." I started getting tagged in memes, mentioned in YouTube reaction videos, even interviewed on local podcasts called Cul-de-sac Chronicles. The story had become legend. Part cooking tutorial, part horror story, part social experiment and unchecked entitlement. But even as the online noise grew, I found myself wanting something quieter, not smaller necessarily, but real. Something that tasted less like revenge and more like reconciliation. Then came another letter, this one official. The Ho board sent out an announcement for the annual Community Celebration Day, an event historically remembered for wilted potato salad, lukewarm speeches, and raffle where someone always accidentally won twice. But this year they wanted something new. They wanted something memorable. They wanted me to headline it, not just to cook, to host, represent the neighborhood that had once tried to find me for spicy poultry warfare. I read the invitation twice, then third time. Then I sat on the edge of my porch and thought about how fast the world turns when you stop trying to hold it still. I agreed under one condition: full creative control, no interference, no forced themes, no Karen-approved decoration committee. The board accepted instantly, probably too relieved I hadn't asked to rename the park after Lucifer's tears. And so I began planning. Not an ambush, not statement, not spectacle, celebration, proper one. I wanted it to feel like shared meal, not public reckoning. I tested recipes with a new sense of purpose. I even invited my original 5 friends over again, this time without fear of surprise flyers. We laughed about how casual Saturday cookout had turned into digital folklore. Tyler, in between bites of smoked ribs, joked that I should write a book, How to Grill and Destroy Without Breaking Hobalas. On the day of the event, the park buzzed with more energy than I'd ever seen. Kids ran with painted faces, balloon animals floated like parade remnants, and the speakers played. A playlist I had personally curated. No Hoa elevator music, just soul jazz and few ironic bangers like Burning Down the House. My booth stood at the center beneath banner that read, Community Feast, where every flavor has story. No hidden cameras, no surprise sauces. Just trays of food with labels that told the truth. Mild honey garlic, a smoky maple chipotle, medium hot citrus blaze, and one special tray labeled ghosted but friendly, small nod to the past with toned down heat and warning that simply read, little fire, never her. The lines were long, the conversations were better. People asked questions about marinades, shared their own recipes, even offered help carrying trays. It felt, finally, what neighborhood should be. And then I saw her, Karen. She wasn't dressed up, no pearls, no clipboard, just jeans, a neutral top, and a look that didn't carry the same edge as before. She didn't avoid eye contact. She didn't demand anything. She got in line, waited, and when she reached the front, she simply said, "You always label things so well now." I handed her plate and said, "Makes life easier." She gave half smile that didn't quite land but didn't evaporate either. She walked away and ate alone under shaded tree. No theatrics, no damage. Later that afternoon, Mr. Arnold approached me with another envelope. I braced for something dramatic, but inside was a simple plaque, in recognition of building bridges through bravery and barbecue. I laughed. He chuckled too, then leaned in and whispered, "Between you and me, that second video where Karen tried to sue jug of almond milk, I've watched it 5 times." I thanked him. He extended his hand. And just like that, the last ember of tension was gone. That evening, as the event wound down, I stood beside the grill one last time. People packed up chairs. Kids traded leftover cookies. Music faded into the sound of dusk. And then Karen walked over again. No audience, no script, just her. She looked at the plaque, then at me. "You didn't humiliate me," she said. "You could have. But you didn't." I shrugged. "You kind of did that yourself." She nodded. "Yeah, I guess I did." She paused as if trying to decide whether to keep speaking or leave it there. Then, "You reminded me that power without consent isn't leadership. It's theft." I didn't expect that, not from her. I didn't respond right away. Then I said, "We all burn something before we learn how to cook it right." She smiled for real this time. "Maybe next year I'll just bring the lemonade." I nodded, "Make it mild." That night, Max and I returned home, both of us tired in the best kind of way. I updated the blog one final time. Not with video, not with story, but with new tagline, recipes for everyone, with fair warning. I sat on the porch, the smell of barbecue still clinging to my shirt, and watched the quiet street settle into itself. For the first time in weeks, it felt whole, not perfect, not fixed, just whole. And as I leaned back in my chair, Max let out a soft huff beside me, like even he could tell we were finally off duty. The flame had cooled, the battle was done, and all that remained was flavor and the future.